charming and inquisitive narrator with an American accent leads a magical adventure suitable for adults in the world of horror stories. Tonight we have 3 scary and true stories about Krampus, a goose town, a cat wandering into a cafe, and I don't know what it is. On December 6, 1986, a family in a small village in Austria witnessed something strange that they believed was connected to Krampus. According to the legend of Krampus, the family included a 42-year-old man, his wife Anna, and their 2 children, Lucas, 10, and Sophia, who was 10. 7. The family followed the old tradition of St. Nicholas Day, which is celebrated on December 6th. I think St. Nicholas rewarded good children with small gifts, but misbehaving children could meet Krampus, a folkloric creature known for punishing naughty children. As he walked to the door, but not again in the snow, they thought it was just a prank from the local children, and the next day they didn't worry about it. The plane went out again to inspect the yard. A light snow had fallen, and the prince was now sharper because of the new snow, and he followed them closely and noticed that they took the right path without any hesitation or wandering, which seemed strange to him. That evening, Sophia admitted that she had seen some large black dog prints in the snow earlier that morning. He brought it to Anna. When they told her that it might belong to one of the forest animals, she dismissed her fears, saying that the children were excited about the holiday and there was no need to stress about small things. On the night of December 5th, Anna prepared a special dinner for the family. The shoe was placed by the fireplace as usual. That night, when Fran woke up for no reason and went to check the living room, he found the shoe scattered on the floor. The front door was open. He thought that the shoe was just the wind closing the door. The next morning, the family woke up to find that St. Nicholas had left and the little presents were gone. Fran and Anna thought that the children were joking, but Lucas, Sophia, denied touching anything. Then looked around the living room and noticed scratches on the floor that hadn't been there the day before. The marks were thin but deep enough to leave visible grooves, and Anna asked the children again, but they both insisted she hadn't done it. She hadn't done it. I don't know anything about that day. He went out to chop firewood and saw the same hoof prints leading from the house into the woods. He followed them for about 100 yards, but they stopped suddenly. There were no other tracks around. He was confused. He returned home and did not tell his wife and children. That evening, the family heard a loud knock on the door. When Fran opened it, there was no one there. He looked around but saw nothing and heard nothing. So he went out to check the area but saw nothing unusual except the same hoof-like track that led to the edge of the yard. They stayed outside for a while listening for movement in the woods, but all was quiet. On the morning of December 7th, Anna discovered that their pantry was completely empty of flour. There was nothing but sugar and other food, and only a few oats scattered on the shelves. She then checked the house for signs of damage, but found nothing unusual and checked the locks on the doors and windows, of which all were secured. The amount of food missing would have required more than one person to carry it, but there were no other signs in the area. That he had gone to check the barn earlier that morning. On the family's weapons, he noticed that one of his axes was hanging the wall was on the ground, the handle was split, the knife was broken, and he saw what looked like claw marks on the barn door. Fran didn't believe in anything supernatural and couldn't explain what had happened. He repaired the damage as best he could and decided to keep the barn closed from then on. Anna suggested calling the local priest. That afternoon, the priest came to bless the house, but didn't notice anything unusual, anything strange, but he told them to be on the alert. Fran didn't mention the hoofprints or in the barn, hoping that Anna will not be disturbed for the next few days and nothing else happens. However, on December 9th, Fran goes to the village to buy more food and hears a neighbor talking about a strange event in their house. The shoes of the neighbors' children that they left behind, they were displaced by street Nicholas, and their gifts were gone. And they also find small wooden sculptures of Krampus on the doorstep. Fren remains silent about his family's experience, but unable to stop, he thinks about how similar the stories are. When Fren returned home, he asked Anna if she had noticed anything strange in the past 2 days. She told them that earlier that morning she had heard heavy footsteps outside the kitchen window, but that she hadn't seen anyone when she looked outside. Fren decided not to show any more hoofprints, but by December 11th, with the house closely watched at night, the family witnessed one last unusual event. Lucas and Sophia woke up early and went to the kitchen, screaming. At the cry, the parents found a set of hooves on the ground leading from the fireplace to Anna's storeroom. They checked the way, but found no one in the house. The prints were weak and dirty, as if someone had done it by dragging the ashes or dirt in front of the floor. He cleaned it up and told the children that after this winter there was nothing to worry about, and that the family would never see anything like this again. Lucas told reporters in 2001 that he still believed the events were connected to Krampus, and said that his parents had known. He talked a lot about the legend as a child, but everything that happened seemed to fit the warnings about Kramp in the old stories. So far, no one has been able to explain what happened. Some believe it was just a joke or a coincidence. Whether or not the real villagers told the story at Christmas time and used it as a warning to remind children to behave. Whether it was just bad luck or a sign of something supernatural, the mystery remains unsolved. The real story of Krampus. But what did he take from them? What did he take their gifts and moved his shoe? I missed something. He didn't even take the dog. Maybe I missed something. Tell me the good news. 2 small towns in Harmony, Indiana, Pennsylvania, there is a strange event that has been happening for over 200 years. It is called the Night of the Disappearance. Every 50 years, on the same night, all the children in the town disappear at sunset. Dawn, they return to their beds or to the porch quietly with no memory of what they had had. It happened. Why would anyone stay in this town? No one knows why or how it happened. The first recorded event was on October 23, 1734. According to letters and diaries from the time, parents were horrified when all their children disappeared at sunset. They searched everywhere, but they couldn't find them. Then, at sunrise, all the children returned as if nothing strange had happened. The parents also reported that they were very tired that night, as if something had fallen asleep. City records from the time indicated confusion. Fear spread among the residents, yes, because their children were gone, and the local church held prayers the following week, hoping to prevent another incident. Yes, good idea. The same thing happened again on October 23, 1784. Exactly 50 years later, even more children disappeared, and some parents tried to stay awake and watch their children, but by sundown the next morning, everyone was asleep and the children returned, safe and sound, unaware of what had happened. According to, was proven in 1826, but this added to the growing concern of the town. By 1834, the town realized it was a pattern, and they started tracking the dates, and when another 50 years had passed, they were preparing for it, just trying to figure out what you would do if you were getting ready to move to the cities, which is what I would do. The parents locked the doors and windows and kept the children inside. But it didn't matter. When the sun went down, the children were gone again. People searched the streets all night, but no one found them until morning. They came back smiling as always, and safe. Some of the children woke up with dirt on their feet or leaves in their hair, although there was no explanation. I bet if this happened every 50 years, people would forget about it, because for a long time you wouldn't believe people that it was really happening. Then when it does happen, if it happens to you, your grandchildren won't believe you, and neither will I. I think every 50 years in the 20th century, the city started recording what happened on October 23, 1934, and cameras were placed in homes and streets to capture evidence. but all the cameras stopped recording at 6:02 p.m. at sunset. They started working again at 6:13 a.m., right at sunrise, and no equipment was damaged and nothing out of the ordinary was recorded, except the sound of the camera during the constant lost hours. Experts who reviewed the tapes were unable to explain the interference during the same event, and a local man named Frank volunteered to stay awake by drinking coffee and taking stimulants. Despite his efforts, he fell asleep at 17:59 at night before disappearing. She woke up on her balcony at sunrise, disoriented and unable to remember anything. There are many theories to explain the disappearance. Some believe it has to do with a curse or an ancient covenant when the city was first colonized. Others believe it may be a strange natural phenomenon or something scientific that has not been covered yet. No, it is really a curse or aliens. But so far, no one has been able to explain how the children disappear or why they always return unharmed. When the children return, their parents often greet them with a smile or laughter in their sleep. Some children later talk about dreams they had at night, mentioning flying stars. Well, of course, now there are aliens or a presence in the forest. These stories are often ignored, but they add to the mystery of the 1934 event. Parents noticed that many of the children who returned were unusually similar. Some were eating more hungry than usual for breakfast. It was recorded in 1884 and in 1834, indicating a common example. In 1984, a group of researchers wanted to study the phenomenon, so they asked the town if they could observe it, but the town leaders said no. They were afraid that the intervention might stop the children from returning safely. At least a few researchers came to observe themselves, but they all fell asleep before sunset, as did the townspeople. When they woke up, they had no memory of the night, and their instruments showed nothing unusual. According to some researchers, strange gaps in their records, where they started writing something and then stopped mid-sentence without remembering doing so. And another strange detail, many of the children who disappeared during the nocturnal disappearance grew up to be very talented or successful. I think they changed. Some became famous artists or leaders. Others said they felt calm and peaceful throughout their lives, as the event changed them in some way. Many of the children who lived through the event later said they had a sense of déjà vu all their lives, as if they had lived certain moments, until the last night of the disappearance happened on October 23, 1934. 1984, then the city made rules on how to deal with it. Everyone in cars was banned from driving on the street. No one was allowed to leave the city. Well, these are terrible rules. Why can't you leave the city? This is the only thing that will work. Despite this precaution, the event happened as it always does. The parents who tried to fortify the doors to the children's rooms were left open in the morning with no signs of a break-in, and one mother reported finding her son's bed empty at 5:30 a.m., but when she checked again at 6:10 a.m., her son was still asleep. He slept unharmed the next night. The disappearance is expected to happen on October 23, 2034, and some believe modern technology will finally help solve the mystery, while others believe it's better not to interfere and risk disturbing something. The force behind it is that a small group of residents are planning to conduct a more advanced test, a surveillance device, but past experiences suggest they could get the same result. No one knows the reasons for the night of the disappearance or why it only happens in Harmony. The townspeople have accepted that it is just part of their history, and that they will probably never have all the answers. If I had a child, and they left, kidnapped him, and came back, I would not trust my child for 25 years, because I thought they kidnapped the body, and I think they replaced it. Alien. I have definitely read a lot. I also think of these stories of trying to sit in the woods a mile from town and record and see if you can see. Well, the third story is in October 2016, John, a 42-year-old man from Massachusetts, was suffering from severe alcoholism and had lost his job 6 months earlier after being unable due to excessive drinking. Drinking in isolation and wandering aimlessly around the town is really depressing. On a rainy evening in late October, John was walking back from a nearby liquor store, often taking back alleys to avoid bumping into people he knew. He could relate to, when he heard a faint cry coming from a bush near the chain-link fence. It either was very good or very bad. I thought it would be very bad. He tried to ignore the sound at first, but after a few steps, he stopped and turned back to examine the bush. He saw a little kitten tangled in the thorns. Well, I was wrong. It seemed to be good. He was shaking, wet, and trying to free himself. Well, at this point, it couldn't be sadder. I mean, man, what the hell? He spends his days in isolation, drinking and aimlessly wandering around the city, heading to the back alleys, avoiding the crowd. He finds a trembling kitten stuck in a thorn bush. This is so sad. I think he'll turn around. Although drunk, John manages to free the kitten. He wraps it in his coat and carries it back home. Once he's eaten, the kitten was fed canned tuna and dried off with an old towel, and he decided to name it Whiskers because of the facial hair. Over the next few months, Whiskers became a staple in John's life, and the cat would often curl up next to him on the couch or sitting by the window while John had a good drink. He still does that, but at least he has a cat now. John notices that Whiskers seems to notice when he's upset or drinking too much and stays close to him when John is feeling down. He connected to the animal and claims that grooming the Whiskers gave him a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. In March of 2017, the Whiskers were gone. John let the cat out for a short time, as he often did, but this time the Whiskers didn't go. John searched his neighborhood again, calling out the cat's name, but there was no sign of him. He started posting flyers and asking neighbors if they saw it, turning into cat days for weeks. John was increasingly agitated, and by mid-April, he had largely... A charming and inquisitive narrator with an American accent leads a magical adventure suitable for adults in the world of horror stories. Given up hope of ever finding the Whisker John described, the following months as a downward spiral. I was wrong. The story became even more depressing. Without the drinker, his apartment was empty, and he was back to his old habits, drinking from morning to night. He worked and rarely left the apartment, except to buy alcohol. In early June, his physical and mental health had deteriorated dramatically. On June 15th, JN claimed to have noticed the drinker while walking near the town square. The cat was sitting the sidewalk across the street, was looking straight at him. JN said he ran straight for the cat, but before he could reach it, it started flapping. The cat didn't run, but moved at a steady pace, occasionally looking back as if to check on Johnny. He was following John, he was whispering down streets and alleys he didn't recognize, even though he had lived in Millfield all his life. He found himself in an unfamiliar part of town about a walk away, 15 minutes, and John noticed that the cat never swerved or hesitated. And finally, he came to a quiet little street that he didn't remember seeing. At the end of the street, there was a small cafe with a cartoon image of a cat holding a cup of coffee. The cafe looked fine, with lights on inside. Later, however, people around John said that he hadn't heard of or seen the cafe that day. JN entered the cafe, expecting it to be empty, but immediately he was surprised by its unusual nature. The cafe was completely filled with cats walking upright on trays carried on their hind legs. He seemed to be working on the table. Despite the strange sight, John said he wasn't bothered and noticed that the cats were moving around as if they were used to it. Good Whiskers jumped on a chair near the table and motioned for John to sit down. Johnny sat down beside him and approached a large cat on the table that looked like a sketch of a star tabby, put the sketch on the table and showed it to him. In some places, a paw would do it. It's the craziest story John has ever told. He felt like he understood what the cat was trying to say, even though no words were spoken. Tab's gestures reflected John's life, including his struggles with alcohol and feelings of failure. John explained that he had the opportunity to change his life and offered concrete advice on how to move forward. The message focused on taking responsibility for his actions and making small, consistent effort to improve his situation. John insisted on continuing the interaction for several hours, though he couldn't tell exactly how long he had said it. The experience had given him a clarity and determination he hadn't felt in years. As he finally stood up to leave, his whiskers trailing him to the door, as JN, he went back outside and looked at the cafe, but it was gone, and the little street seemed empty, no sign of the building having ever been there. In the evening, JN began to make major changes to himself. He joined a local recovery program and quit drinking, and also began volunteering at a nearby animal shelter, saying he wanted to give back to the animals who helped him. Within a few months, he found a part-time job at a hardware store, began to mend fences with his family. Whiskers stayed by John's side through it all, and John saved a cat's life. When asked about the coffee shop, JN claimed his experience was real, though he admitted he had no explanation for the others in Millfield. Similar encounters with the traveling cat cafe have been reported, some claiming to have seen it in different parts of town, always appearing when they are at a crossroads in life. The inside description of the cat and the kittens varies, but the reports seem to share a common theme: those who are truly lost and deserve a second chance. The cafe has never been officially documented, and skeptics claim the stories are just urban legends, though John and others who claim to have experienced it remain steadfast in their faith. John continues to share his story, often with a mustache hanging from his shoulder, describing the cafe as a turning point in his life, and hoping that others who meet him will find the same purpose and direction. As the Wandering Cat Cafe, it remains a local mystery, with no reported sightings in Millfield and surrounding towns. But for those who have claimed to have visited, the impact is undeniable. That the story has been crazy on this channel. While the stories didn't get to where I thought the cat would lead him, to the door and then meowed, and a beautiful woman opened the door and said, "Thank you for returning my cat," and said, "She's yours." The cat said his name was Whiskers, and she said, "As you called Whiskers?" And then they fell in love and got married? No! I took her to a cat cafe where cats walk. Jobs. And that's still good. And so the story ends. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all the stories. Like, share, and rate the story in a comment. Thank you for watching.